Hi, welcome. My name is Dariusz, and today I would like to introduce you to Taon, a JavaScript/TypeScript framework for both backend and frontend development. I will show you 10 reasons why I believe Taon is the future of Angular and Node.js development. Before we start, a little bit about me. My name is Dariusz Filipiak and I live in Warsaw, Poland. I started coding 22 years ago. Today, I mostly work on Angular frontend applications, but throughout my career, I've built many backend and databases systems as well. About 9 years ago, I wanted to build simple backend and frontend website. At that time, Angular and TypeScript were just starting and TypeORM was in the early stage of development. But even then, my goal was clear: to work at the highest possible level of abstraction using the best tools available for TypeScript and Node.js. After exploring many frameworks and solutions, I realized something was missing. I needed not just another framework, but a combination of framework, CLI, and cloud. I also felt very strongly that Visual Studio Code and TypeScript should be the foundation, and that we need a better way to deploy Node.js applications without pain or huge cost. Before talking about Taon itself, I wanted to explain what isomorphic code means. To reach a higher level of abstraction and to avoid repeating yourself, you need isomorphic code, meaning the same code runs in a different environments, browser or Node.js, but behaves differently depending on where it runs. Once I understand the power of isomorphic code, the purpose of Taon became clear. It was about exploring a unified way of creating backend and frontend applications, building a community around high-level coding, and honestly, helping me in my everyday Angular work. Today, in 2026, the goals of Taon are clear. Taon aims to be natural backend for Angular, to make web development fun again, and provide serious continuous integration, continuous deployment without massive DevOps overhead. The idea is simple. One TypeScript developer supported by Taon Cloud and AI can build and maintain complete systems. Today, Taon built many types of artifacts using one coherent system, from CLI tools and NPM libraries to Angular applications, backends, desktop apps, and mobile apps. All of this is designed to feel unified, consistent, and predictable. Taon was not only designed for big corporations. It can be used by hobbyists, small teams, and large organizations. Applications are designed to scale naturally and evolve incrementally over time, just like modern Angular itself. And Taon embraces Angular completely. With signals, SSR, hydration, and excellent tree shaking, Angular delivers performance and stability that competes and often surpass other frameworks. Angular also offers a unified object-oriented approach that feels natural for developers who understand design patterns. With a massive backing from Google and very strong roadmap, Angular is clearly positioned to win the framework race. And I couldn't be happier that I chose this front-end framework as one of the foundation for Taon. Speaking about Taon, now You can think of Taon as three things combined. First, a TypeScript framework for building isomorphic architectures with controllers, repositories, and API services. Second, a powerful CLI that you can use directly from the terminal to build, test, and release application and libraries. And the third, a cloud layer that provides a simple but powerful CI/CD without usual DevOps overhead. Everything here is written in TypeScript, designed to be extended and optimized for developer experience. Taon is not one tool, it's a coherent system. Taon takes inspirations from many other tools like Firebase, Blazor, Nest.js, but always select the most developer-friendly ideas and combines them into one unified open source project. Before we start, actually talk about 10 reasons why Taon is the future of JavaScript development, we should answer one last obvious question. Can we really trust JavaScript on the backend? Today, JavaScript is fast, predictable, and very well suited for event-driven systems. Modern CPUs favor single-core performance, and Node.js takes advantage of that model extremely well. Taon Cloud combines Node.js with Tree-shakable, a high-performance reverse proxy written in Go that runs multiple backend instances in parallel. And in the results, we have a system that feels fast, stable, and scales naturally under load. With that foundation in place, let's begin 10 reasons why Taon is the future of Angular and Node.js development. One of the biggest unsolved problems in modern TypeScript and JavaScript are tree-shakable namespaces. Developers want structure and namespacing, but ESM ecosystem makes this difficult without losing tree shaking. Taon solved this using a combination: the TypeScript compiler API, carefully designed npm package structures, and controlled import-export transformations. As a result, you get structured code and excellent tree shaking. In practice, Taon fixes one of the core pain points of the entire ESM JavaScript ecosystem. Let's have a look at a simple example of what is actually happening. Here we have a nested TypeScript namespace, something that is very natural for developers but problematic for tree shaking in ESM. After applying precise transformation using TypeScript compiler API, Taon rewrites this structure for production. In production, this namespace is flattened into plain functions with deterministic names. From the bundler point of view, these are just normal ESM export, which means they are fully tree-shakable, and unused functions are removed automatically. And of course, during minification, these long names are reduced to very small ones, so there is no runtime cost. You can actually now verify that this really works looking directly at Taon npm package. For every runtime, Taon provides a development version and corresponding -prod version. The -prod version builds contain fully flattened tree-shakable namespaces, resulting in extremely lean production bundles. One immediate benefit of Tree-shakable namespaces is improved developer experience. A great example is Lodash. When you import Lodash through Taon, it becomes Tree-shakable while still keeping a clean, expressive API. You get the best of both worlds: modern ESM performance and excellent developer ergonomics. One of the most important ideas in Taon is zero-string configuration. Both in development and production, you don't manually define ports, hosts, Docker files, or API endpoints. Instead of fragile string-based .env files, Taon uses typed extensible TypeScript configuration. This removes an entire class of errors and lets you focus on building application, not wiring infrastructure. Taon manages port automatically using internal port database. When you run an app locally, Taon assigns a free development port for any task you do. And in production, Taon Cloud uses the same logic to generate correct configuration for deployments. The important part is you're never going to have to think about ports again. Also, all host definitions are generated into a single app.host.ts file. This file contains everything needed for VS Code, Electron, and mobile targets, and obviously web targets. No duplication, no guessing which host is active, or anything like that in Taon. Taon uses one main env.ts file as a base configuration. Domains can even be generated automatically based on your project name. From this file, you can create multiple environment-specific configs without duplicating values. Meaning, you can have environment-specific configuration that simply extend the main env.ts file. You overwrite only what's different, nothing else. This gives you clean, readable inheritance and keeps configuration logic predictable. Taon handles the rest. Each Taon artifact, web, app, Electron, mobile, can have its own environment configuration. All configs still inherit from the same base, staying consistent and remaining flexible at the same time. One of the most important ideas in Taon is that developer experience comes first. Taon enables things that are normally hard or impossible without watching and rebuilding third-party libraries while running ng-serve with Angular. It also supports true cross-project TypeScript debugging and automatically generates VS Code debugger configuration for every artifact. And also, on every build, Taon recreates the project structure from templates so accidental changes to critical files simply disappear. To understand where Taon really shines, we need to look at project's philosophy. In Angular, one project often contains many libraries and many applications. In Taon, there is a strict rule: one project equal one library and one app. This makes predictable, reproducible, and much easier to reason about project, especially at scale. Taon containers group multiple Taon projects together. A container can act as a standalone workspace or even as npm organization. Taon allow in container so-called group actions like build, test, or release that can be executed and applied to all container children projects. Developing libraries in Taon is different. When multiple projects are running in watch mode, their libraries are built and linked directly inside the shared so-called core container node modules. This enables something very powerful, real cross-project debugging with no hacks or manual linking. Let's see how this works. In most frameworks, when you import library and click on the symbol, in VS Code for example, like here when you click on the person, you are redirected to DTS file. And that file is useless for real debugging and breaks developer flow. TypeScript declaration files, DTS files, exist for type safety, not for development. You can't debug them, you can't even understand real behavior from them. In Taon, imports can point to real source code. The library is running. If the library is running in the development mode, clicking on the import takes you directly to actual TypeScript file, not declaration file. This means you can inspect, step through, and debug real library code as if it were part of your project. That's massive productivity boost when you're working with shared libraries. This works because Taon fully controls imports that are resolved. During development, imports point to real source code, but in production builds, the same imports are rewritten to targets to the correct outputs, backend browser, or other code bundles. This allows Taons to ship multiple artifacts without breaking development experience. Large TypeScript projects becomes very hard to refactor once they split into many libraries and packages. Taon solves this by making the entire ecosystem visible inside your code editor with a little bit of help of TypeScript/Angular language service plugins. For example, in Taon, when you rename a database property, the database entity property, Angular templates are updated automatically. Or when you refactor shared code, changes propagate across project safely. Refactoring becomes something you can trust again. Here we have two separate projects open in one editor at the same time. One project defines a shared class, the other extended from a different repository. Because Taon exposes real source code instead of DTS files, TypeScript can perform true cross-project refactoring. Rename once, update everywhere. Taon is built around one idea. Write logic once, use it everywhere. Controllers and middlewares become the glue between backend and frontend. The same TypeScript files are intelligently split into frontend only, backend only and library safe code. This removes duplication without sacrificing clarity or safety. The dry, don't repeat yourself is no longer a guideline. It becomes default. This is normal Taon backend controller, and it defines routes, logic, and return types using TypeScript and decorators. The important part here is that controller doesn't care where it will be used. It's only define intent and behavior. As you see, on the frontend, the same controller exists but without backend execution logic. Taon automatically builds the correct REST path and contract. You don't duplicate routes, strings, or DTOs. The backend defines the API and the frontend consumes it safely. In practice, you usually wrap Taon controllers inside special Taon Angular API services. Controllers are injected, and as you see here, by calling request method, request function, automatically there's this proper HTTP method performed, and everything here is automatically generated inside this method. So no hard-coded URLs, no mismatch payloads. The backend remains the single source of truth. Taon middlewares are fully isomorphic. They combine ideas from Express middlewares, and Angular interceptors. The same class can intercept requests globally or per controller or both backend and frontend. Middlewares are the one place to handle things like authentication session or logging. Inside middleware, you can branch behavior by environment. Let's say the same method expose a unified API or something like this method for user inside session. Why this method execution differs between backend and browser, business logic stays consistent without leaking platform-specific details. As you can imagine, these allow logic to be centralized in a very clean and elegant way. The same codebase can also produce clean, reusable NPM libraries. Taon strips application-only logic before publishing. This means your NPM package stays minimal, secure, and usable outside Taon ecosystem. One codebase, multiple clean outputs. Taon rethinks how backend data access should work in TypeScript. It keeps TypeORM but wraps it in a clean, unified model that works across Node.js, Electron, or even the browser. Repositories are real classes again. The backing is name-based and predictable, and the same controller logic can switch transport layers automatically. REST, IPC, or in-browser mocks became possible. One data layer, multiple runtimes, no duplication logic. In Taon, repositories are proper classes, not anonymous objects. This makes them easier to extend, debug, and reason about. Just like traditional backend architecture, you write backend logic once, using TypeScript and TypeORM, and it behaves exactly like you expect on the server. In general, repositories should only run on backend, and Taon respects that rule. But there is one intentional exception called WebSQL mode. When WebSQL mode, when enabled, the same repository code can be safely executed in the browser. You may ask how? Well, in WebSQL mode, repositories use SQL.js library to run real SQL databases inside the browser. You don't mock data, you run the actual backend logic. In WebSQL mode, the backend truly stays in the browser. The same repository code executes there with the same API and same guarantees. When you switch back to Node.js or Electron, nothing changes in your code, only the runtime changes. This makes front-end development faster, testing easier, and a complex flow possible without running server. As a result, backend-less demos, for example on GitHub pages or fully offline end-to-end tests, become very real and practical. JavaScript already dominates almost every environment: the web, Electron, mobile, and PWAs. The only question mark has always been the backend. Taon contexts are the answers. They provide a structured, scalable way to model servers, databases, and execution boundaries, all in TypeScript. With context, JavaScript doesn't just run on the backend. It becomes first-class backend platform. A context is a self-contained backend unit. It defines everything it owns: entities, controllers, repositories, middlewares, and nothing else. A context can be abstract, meaning it is reusable like a library, or context can be active, meaning it runs as a real server. When context is initialized, it becomes exactly one server with exactly one database. Context can be composed together. Here we have defined independent domains, users, and books, each reusable and is isolated. When we join them into single context at runtime, this becomes one server and one database. But the code remains modular, clean, and independent. This gives you monolith simplicity with microservice level structure. Active contexts have automatically generated hosts and environment configurations. You don't manually define ports, hosts, or wiring anything. You simply compose contexts, and Taon connects them correctly for both development and production. Less configuration, fewer mistakes. Contexts also allow natural separation of contents. You can split your system into multiple active contexts: website, dashboard, settings, each with its own frontend and backend. At the same time, shared logic like session or authorization live in abstract context and can be reused across projects. This scales from small apps to very large systems without changing the model. Contexts are not only composable, they are also clonable. You can take an existing running context and create exactly a copy of it. The cloned context overrides the database type or location, host configuration, or even the execution environment. This makes it trivial to create backups, staging environments, migration experiments, or temporary workloads, all with changing the original code, or without changing the original code. Same logic, same guarantees, different runtime. Taon brings back the idea of sharing real code, not just utilities. With isomorphic npm packages, you can share complete features, authentication, CMS, e-commerce, with both backend and frontend logic together. These packages can also include shared assets, styles in CSS files, not just JavaScript. The result is code that actually makes sense when used, instead of fragmented pieces spread across projects. Shared code becomes productive again, not something you avoid. Taon improves security by reducing chaos in the ecosystem. There is no need to run npm install for each project separately. Projects are built from predefined, versioned core container instead. Taon provides long-term support aligned with major Angular version starting from Angular 21. The Taon Cloud automatically updates using community-selected set of stable and trusted packages. Similar projects can share node modules instantly. No installation time, no duplicates, just links. Fewer moving parts means fewer security problems. Taon Cloud makes continuous integration and continuous delivery simple and accessible. You can build locally and release from your machine, or release directly from the server, your choice. Taon Local Cloud behaves exactly the same as the production server environment. Everything is terminal first, so you work like a developer, not like DevOps engineer inside the browser. One command, Taon release, works for every artifact, apps, libraries, services, plugins. Continuous development, continuous delivery is no longer something only big companies can afford. Taon Cloud handles complex deployments as a single transaction. The system can automatically switch the application and database into safe, read-only state. Next, it can replicate the current database, restart the app, apply migrations, and restart the whole thing. New versions are introduced gradually using Tree-shakable as reverse proxy. And if anything goes wrong, even after end-to-end test, the whole process rolls back automatically. No manual steps, no panic deployments, just safe, reversible releases. Taon is about reducing costs and responsibility, not adding more tools. Self-hosted Taon Cloud replaces a big part of what people pay on AWS or Azure, and it's often hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. In Taon Cloud, updates, security, and stability are handled at the platform level, shared across projects and backed by the community. And with AI on top of this structure, one developer can now do the work that previously required a whole team. Less infrastructure, less overhead, more actual product work. One more additional reason why Taon is the future of Angular and Node.js development. AI in general performs best on structured, type, and predictable systems. Taon is 100% TypeScript, convenient-driven, and fully isomorphic. That makes it much easier for AI to understand the codebase, refactor it, and extend it. And usually it is better than in the most other ecosystems. In the long run, AI will naturally prefer frameworks like Taon because they are easier to reason about as complete systems compared to unstructured JavaScript solutions. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one simple thought. If you are building extremely specialized low-level system like avionics or military aircraft, JavaScript is probably not your tool and it's not for you. But for everything else, JavaScript is for you. And also Taon is for you. Thanks for watching. If you like the idea behind Taon, start the project on GitHub, contribute or support development, or join the community and share feedback. Thank you, have an amazing day.